So hi, I'm Kris Thompson. I'm the CEO at Calvary Women's Services. For over 40 years, Calvary has been empowering women who are experiencing homelessness and domestic violence to end their homelessness for good. We provide housing, health, education programs that ensure that over 250 women each year are able to rebuild their lives. I'm excited to be here today with a friend and Calvary supporter, Colin Kimpel. Colin is at Wealth Insight Partners, and he's here today to talk with us about DAFs, or donor advised funds. Colin and I have known each other for a while. We were classmates in the Leadership Greater Washington class of 2014. And so I'm going to ask you, Colin, to say a little bit about yourself and your firm and get this conversation started.
Sure. Class of 2014, the best you've ever seen.
The best you've ever seen.
Really? Well, Kris, thanks for having me. So yeah, I'm Colin Kimpel. Our firm is Wealth Insight Partners. We are a financial planning and wealth management firm in the DC area. We work with really three different types of families and individuals. The first being entrepreneurs, the second being corporate executives, and the third being law firm partners. And while those three seem like a little bit disparate in their own right, there's really two main commonalities that they share. Number one is they're great delegators. They understand that they want to spend their time on what made them successful in the first place, and also spending time with family and also giving back. They don't want to try and also figure out their financial decisions on their own. So that's the first thing, they're great delegators. The second thing is they want to give their money away. And you might say, that sounds really bizarre. Why would a wealth management firm that manages money want to work with people that wants to give their money away? But what I mean by that is, it doesn't mean, hey, don't take care of your family. Of course, we want to work with people that really want to leave this place better than they found it. And we think, we're firm believers of it's always better to give with a warm hand versus a cold hand. So what can you do that works into your financial plan to help support those charities, those causes today, and then after you're gone? So it's a little bit about our firm.
I love that. I'm so grateful that you're here today. And I've always admired that. I think we all maybe have impressions of who does wealth management and what the motivations are. And so I so appreciate the way that you are really working to make a difference in the world. I know that about you personally. And so I love that that's the mission of your firm and that's the kind of work we can do together at Calvary Women's Services and at Wealth Insight Partners.
That means a lot coming from you.
Thank you. Today, we're talking about a topic that we get a lot of questions about at Calvary Women's Services, donor advised funds, or DAFs. For those who may not be familiar with exactly what a DAF is, Colin's going to give us some insights into donor advised funds.
Sure. Thanks, Kris. So donor advised funds, you can think of it like a separate account that's like a charitable 401k, where you can give cash or other assets, which we're going to get to, that you determine when those funds then get doled out to the charities that you want to support. So it gives you flexibility from what you donate and when you donate.
Great. And there's lots of benefits then for organizations like Calvary.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that we know are that people who give through donor advised funds are being very intentional about their giving. And so we see consistency in giving. It's people who talk with their wealth advisors about how they want to make a commitment and a contribution. We also know that donor advised funds, of course, come through trusted financial institutions. And so those checks then get to us efficiently, and we can put that money to use more quickly at Calvary. And then I think maybe most importantly are the ways that people who contribute to DAFs are able to make multi-year commitments or think about their giving over multiple years. And so for an organization like Calvary, that really allows us to think about longer-term investments coming in and longer-term investments then in the programs that we provide for women experiencing homelessness. So the theme of today's conversation with Colin Kimpel is give more and keep more. What does that mean to you, Colin?
So here's where donor advised funds can really sizzle, really make a lot of sense financially for you. They have 3 tax benefits. So this is super rare. in our world of taxes. The first reason they make sense from a tax perspective is any money that you put into it is tax deductible. So that's on par. That's similar to just like giving money to charity. But that's where the similarities end, is the money that goes into this account can then also grow tax-free over time. And you think over time, well, wait a minute, if I give my money away, isn't it just gone? When you give it to a donor advised fund, you've created your own mini foundation, which means that that money, even though you get a tax deduction today, you can donate it out from there whenever you want. Even though you get a tax deduction in the current tax year, you can give that money out in future years, or in all right now for the charities and organizations that may need it right now. But the point is, you have control. The third thing is, and this is where it really sizzles, and I want everyone to kind of pay attention here. If you are giving money to a charity like Calvary with cash, and you have any sort of investment portfolio, you're probably doing it wrong. Well, I'm not saying I'm doing it wrong by giving. I'm saying that you're leaving money on the table with using tax benefits to maximize the impact of your giving. And it works like this. Let's say you have IBM stock and it was gifted to you by a relative, 30, 40 years ago. Or let's say you have Apple or Nvidia, something you just bought in the last few years, and it's, gone up 10 times in value. What you can do is donate that stock to your donor advised fund. Because the donor advised fund is actually considered a charity, and charities can sell assets and not pay taxes because charities don't pay taxes, you can donate that stock to the donor advised fund, and you avoid all the taxes you would have otherwise paid if you were to sell that, pay taxes, and then have that money left over to give to charity. So you pick up 30, 40% of what would normally go to charity to now have more impact. Go to the government, go to taxes, not charity. That would go to now the charity. And so that's where you can have maximum impact for that. So instead of saying, I'm going to sell the stock and give that to charity, I'm going to give the stock to my donor advised fund, keep the money I would otherwise pay to taxes, and give more money in the end.
So it literally is a give more, keep more that you're describing, which also makes me think I need to evaluate my own. So I'll be in touch with you about that for sure. This brings us to thinking about donors and who donors are and who might be using a donor advised fund. At Calvary, we're very fortunate to have a diverse funding base that includes foundations and corporate partners. But the backbone for us is individual donors, major donors, people who get to decide how they want their gifts given and can do that in flexible ways, as we've been hearing from Colin. And so really want our listeners to think about the ways that your giving can be expanded, that you can in fact do as Colin's described and give more and keep more as a way of supporting the causes that matter to you. So not everyone thinks that they are in fact the right kind of donor to have a donor advised fund. Maybe I don't think my income's high enough, or maybe I don't think I have the kind of flexibility, or maybe I've never had anyone advise me on how to think about my taxes and my investing and my giving. Can you tell us a little bit, Colin, about who's the right kind of person to have a donor advised fund?
Yeah, I mean, you might think, I need millions of dollars to start one of these funds. And in fact, a lot of financial institutions that support donor advised funds, you can start with as little as $5,000. So, for example, Fidelity Charitable is one of the organizations, if everyone knows Fidelity, and it's super easy to set up on their website. And then let's say you want to give money to an organization like Calvary. They've got a great, easy bill pay system, just like you have at your bank. And then those funds link electronically, so it's safe and goes right to the charity. And you don't have to pull out and figure out, okay, my credit card number, my bank number, whatever. You just go into the portal and you're able to send it that way. So from a usability standpoint, it's very easy. Now, in terms of who it's right for, we see it all over in terms of, it can be young professionals. folks that maybe get, company stock from their employers, and instead of paying the tax on those gains, hey, give it to the donor advised fund. Stop just writing checks, when your friend goes and runs, a 10K for charity, or you want to support or buy a table for a gala or whatnot. So young professionals, we see it for retirees. And this is really where it sinks, because a lot of times when you're retired, you might be on a fixed income. And so cash is precious, but you may have assets. You have saved assets. And if you're retired and you've been on this earth for, many years, you probably also have investments that you've had for a long time. So there's a lot of built up gains inside of that. So you can, that's an ideal situation. You're lowering the burden on your cash flow because you're not giving out of cash anymore, and you're avoiding taxes on investments that you've held for a long time. And then also business owners and corporate executives, right? You can even use business funds to start a donor advised fund, or you can reward your employees, have them, gift their bonuses into a donor advised fund and avoid taxes. And then it kind of speaks to the values you have as a business for giving back. So really it's most people, it can make sense for.
So let me do a follow-up. So for example, if I'm trying to decide about my own giving over the next year, and I know that I don't necessarily have stock that I can donate, and I'm certainly not retired yet, but I know that I have a certain amount of cash that my family has made decisions around that we will give. Yeah. So I could easily say on a monthly basis, I will contribute X amount into my donor advised fund, and then know that those funds can get distributed out over the course of the year. Yeah. I'm getting the tax benefit by putting it immediately into the DAF, and then getting the other benefit from giving it to the charity.
Exactly. And that spurred two thoughts. Number one, when you do it as a family and you have a dedicated fund, it creates a conversation piece around your family about giving, versus like, X amount of dollars we're going to write a check for. It's like, hey, this is our giving fund. Let's say, how much do we want to give out of it every year? Or, and this is a lot of our clients have a goal for this, let's try and save enough in a donor advised fund so that the earnings on that every year create kind of like a mini endowment, so that now your giving can be in perpetuity. So you have like a fund that can, off the earnings you can give every year. Yeah. So that's a goal that a lot of our clients have.
And what happens if when I pass and my estate then is passed on to my children and I have a donor advised fund, what happens to it then?
Yeah. So just like a 401k, you elect a beneficiary to not receive the funds, but to be kind of the who controls it, right? Who dictates where those funds go. So that's, you're in the driver's seat as it relates to that.
Perfect. I think I'm understanding this now. Thank you so much for sharing all that information. So hard to believe we're in October, National DAF Day, and quickly followed by Halloween and all of the holidays. So the year end is upon us. And so many of us are beginning to think about those holiday preparations, but also thinking about how we might want to do our year end giving and make financial commitments to organizations that we care about. At a place like Calvary Women's Services, this is the time of year where the majority of the giving from our individual and major donors comes. And so it's a critical time of the year for us to know that we will have the funds in place and the investments made in the women that we serve. Life for women at Calvary is transformed by the commitments that individual and major donors make to us. And so as we head into these holiday seasons and we think about giving and our loved ones and the ways that we might have a legacy as a family, can you share a little bit, Colin, about why it's so important for donors to think about year-end giving in particular?
Sure. There's a few reasons. So number one, if you're considering a donor advised fund, and you're going to be giving stock, typically, not every year, the fourth quarter of the year is the best part of the stock market. You have a lot of people maximizing 401ks. You have a lot of people making contributions to their investment accounts, like bonuses. That drives up the stock market. So why does that make sense for a donor advised fund? When does it always make sense to sell a stock? When it's high. right? To maximize the value. So it's a great time. I'm not saying that, I'm not going to predict in the short term where the stock market goes. Over the long time, it always goes up. But right now is a great time to make a contribution to a donor advised fund and maximize the impact from there. The second reason why it makes sense to look at giving in the fourth quarter is right now, given the current tax policy, I don't want to lose people here because taxes are boring, but you have an option on your taxes to either get a standard deduction, or you can itemize your deductions. Okay. When you itemize, that means you're separately writing off things like mortgage interest, things like a certain amount of state taxes, and also charity. But as that standard deduction continues to go up every year, the hurdle rate for what you need to be able to write off keeps going up higher. So for example, let's say you have an annual giving budget of $5,000. That might not get you over the standard deduction amount, and therefore it's less impact for you to give charitably. However, if let's say you had 20 or 30,000 in a stock that you could then donate to your donor advised fund, take care of 4 or 5 years worth of giving, you do clear that hurdle for making a tax deductible charitable contribution to your donor advised fund. So that's another reason why the year-end giving can make sense.
And it seems to me then that October becomes important, October, November, because presumably this is the time of year that you're either setting up a donor advised fund or you're reaching out to Colin or your wealth advisor to really talk about what is your financial situation, what makes sense to do and give as you go into year end here in 2025.
Yeah.
So the keeping more and giving more continues to be the theme. And so I feel like I've learned a lot about that today. I want to really make sure that we're thinking about this year-end giving and the ways in which giving now and giving now to Calvary Women's Services in particular is a way to make an impact on women who are experiencing homelessness here in Washington, D.C. We see this issue every day now in the news, and we know that the issues that women are facing are so critical. And so this is a vital time of year to be making investments and thinking about organizations like Calvary Women's Services as you're considering your year-end giving. We touched on this earlier, Colin, but I want to make sure that we don't miss out. Can you tell us again, if I wanted to set up a donor advised fund today, how might I go about doing that? Sure. Where do I start?
Yeah, there's a number of places that that can help you with opening a donor advised fund. So many financial institutions can, so talk to your wealth advisor about opening up one. If you're more of a do-it-yourselfer type person, even Vanguard or Fidelity, I mentioned Fidelity Charitable earlier, It's pretty straightforward on how you open up that account. Then they can link that account to wherever you have your investments, so you can then electronically transfer over those stocks or those holdings. There's also several community organizations that will help open donor advised funds for you that I'm aware of, but it is not a heavy lift. It's pretty easy. And once you have it, you'll be really glad that you have it as a tool and part of your arsenal.
So if I wanted to set up my donor advised fund and I got to have this conversation with you today and was excited about not just your work, but also the work of Wealth Insight Partners, how might I make that contact?
Well, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has, and you can find us on our website, wealthinsightpartners.com. And we can either can help you out through our firm, or we can direct you to a service that if you're more of a do-it-yourself person.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Colin, for taking time with us today, for helping us understand this very critical way of making contributions in the community. At Calvary, we see every gift, whether they come through a DAF or a direct contribution. We see those as an investment in women who are making a difference in their lives. And so we are grateful to you and to so many others who contribute to this organization, and hope that you find this information helpful today and find it motivating, and hope that you too will choose to make a gift and a contribution in support of women at Calvary Women's Services.